Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Soul and Screen. In this particular video, I will be continuing the conversation on soul ties as it pertains to the TV show Tyler Perry's Sistas. I am utilizing the characters in the situationship between Zach, Fatima, and Karen. So let's just get into it. Last video, I left off where Fatima was leaving Karen's house after showing up to her house to confront her. And they, of course, they got into a big argument because Fatima walked in hearing Karen basically gloat and brag that she had invited Zach over to have sex with her, and Fatima was over it. So she walked into her house. They began arguing. So we will pick up from there. Zach finally got Fatima to leave. And when Fatima was leaving, Zach turns and he tells Karen, you really need to chill out. And she's like, why won't you pick up the paper, Zach? Because she had basically supposedly pushed the test results of supposedly a kind of time kind of test, or they tried to say it was a DNA test, but it wasn't, to find out who her baby daddy was. And she gave it to Zach during the argument and told him to pick it up, and he wouldn't pick it up, and Fatima told him to pick it up, and he was like, he's not picking it up either. So anyway, he leaves, and when he leaves, it's just Karen and the girls, and Zach leaves to make sure Fatima goes. When she leaves, again, Zach and the girls and Aaron are left in the apartment, and Zach tells her, you really need to chill out, like I said. And so he leaves, and that just leaves her and Aaron and the rest of the girls. They basically tell Karen to, you need to really calm down. And Aaron chimes in. He's like, yeah, you really want to calm down, Karen. You don't want to stress out the baby. And so Danny chimes in on Aaron and comes at him clean, and clear and cut. Just, you don't want to stress her out, but you showed up here unannounced. Now, remember, Karen has already told Aaron, since the fire, this is like the third time that she, is done with him. Like he just keeps coming up. And this is why I'm not sure why people don't understand why I'm not really happy about this character. Like I don't like the character of Aaron because he does not respect boundaries. He is supposed to be a man of faith. In one of my previous videos, I think I mentioned that he was a pastor, and the listener actually mentioned that, hey, Tiffany, I don't know if he's actually a pastor or not. And so let me say this. I'm not really sure if he's a pastor or not, but people in leadership who have offices and stuff sometimes usually, from my experience, let me say that, have been like associate pastors or something. They may not be pastoring the entire church, but various ministries within the congregation or some kind of things. But even if he is not a pastor, he's still in leadership, which means he should be one to have demonstrated the ability to exercise better judgment and self-control on himself. And he can't. He has not been able to demonstrate that with Karen at all, whether it be him not respecting multiple people's boundaries, Karen's or Zach's, or just him slipping and falling in his own, vices as well. And that's not to say that he needs to be perfect. It's just to say that since he's gotten with Karen, he's had, he fell off the wagon. He was supposedly practicing abstinence and all this kind of stuff, and he started drinking again. And so what I'm saying is he doesn't seem to be someone who is who's getting better, which your partner should be making you kind of a better person, right? You guys should be making each other better, growing into a better place and space, like complimenting each other. But he's not. He's spiraling out of control. And so anyway, Zanny clocks him, and basically he decides maybe I should go. And so when it's just all four of the sisters the sisters in the house, Karen gets mad and lashes out at Andy. And she's like, you need to go, Andy. And so they all look at Karen like, what's going on? And she's like, what's going on? And she's like, you need to go. You let her in here. And she's talking about Andy letting Fatima in. Now, mind you, Fatima walked in because she told Zach that she's going to leave the door open. So Andy did not let Fatima in the house. And so she's going, Karen, no, I didn't. She goes, you did. I asked you to get her out and you didn't get her out. And she's like, Karen, I asked her to leave. And she's like, but you didn't. And so now she's lashing out because at this point she's embarrassed. Let's just keep it real. She was sitting there talking to the girls and letting them know that she invited Zach over. She made it seem like they had this amazing day of spending time with each other, just reminiscing and just like getting back to where they used to be. And so as a result of that, I invited him over and he coming over for sex. And basically Zach came and blew it up in front of everybody. So now not only do they know that, no, he didn't come, you guys didn't have that, that great of a evening that you planted in your head. Like, this soul tie has her wilding out. Like, she is literally seeing stuff that she wants to see and not hearing full conversations. Zach, remember, did tell her that he didn't even know if that baby was his and that he was going to be with Fatima. She ain't hearing none of this. So anyway, she's now embarrassed because Zach basically told her in front of everybody, why you trying to make it seem like me and you got something going on and like we did something during their argument. And so she's embarrassed. So she's lashing out at Andy now, blaming Andy. And she literally tells Andy, you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to choose. You're going to either be friends with Fatima or you're going to be friends with me. And so, she's like, Andy's like, Karen. And so Sabrina like launches in and she's like, Karen, like, she's like, no, you all need to, matter of fact, y'all all need to leave. And so she's yelling, get out. And, they're like, we're not going anywhere. So she finally explodes and like, get out of here. And then she's like, forget it. Y'all gonna make me, miscarry the baby. And then she storms out into her bedroom. When she leaves, everyone picks up the paper. Danny picks up the paper, reads supposedly the results of the test showing that, confirming that Zach was the father, and it was blank. And so, of course, Danny left pissed off. And so anyway, they go. Fast forward to a little bit into the season. That night, even later on, Zach is waiting to make sure that Fatima don't double back and like basically come and whoop Karen because she was calling her a whole bunch of bees and stuff like that. And so him and Aaron get into it in the front. And here's another moment where I say, because Aaron, he's literally standing outside after they all told him to leave. And Karen didn't pay him no mind. She didn't even acknowledge his presence when he was in the house after everybody left. Now, he's standing outside waiting for everybody to leave because he told Sabrina he's going to go back in and talk to her. Again, overstepping the bounds when they're trying to get her to calm down and you're supposedly not trying to stress her, but you keep showing up and now you're even talking about going back in there. So that's why I'm saying, but him and Aaron and Zach get into it because he's like, what you even doing here, to Zach? And Zach like, man, like, how many times I got to tell you to quit talking to me? And so the girls come out and they're like, yeah, Zach, go home. And so he's like, no, I'm good where I'm at. And then, Danny and they're like, Zach, why are you even here? Like, shouldn't you be home? He was like, the only reason I'm here is to make sure Fatima don't double back and, come back after Karen, because she was basically calling her all them bees. And that was basically the end of his conversation. Fatima texts him or whatever when he gets home. And so when she gets home, and so he leaves. When he gets to the house, Fatima is like pacing and he's like, he was like, Fatima, like, she's like, what? And he's like, why you go over there? And she was like, because I wanted to talk to her. And he was like, kind of telling her like she shouldn't have went over there. And she got a gun and all this kind of stuff. And so Fatima was like, so what? She ain't the only one who's strapped. You know what I'm saying? And so he's like, I know. He was like, but you was wrong and you shouldn't have went over there. And so basically they kind of just get into it a little bit, but nothing big. They just, she's just like, what, Zach, I'm just tired. I've been trying to be nice to her and all this kind of stuff, and I'm tired. And I went over there to tell her that, I'm tired of this, basically. So Zach gets Fatima to calm down a little bit. You fast forward into a little bit more into the season. The next morning, Fatima's getting ready to go to work. She tries to get there a little early because she knows that Andy is waiting for her. But before she gets there, Zach is waiting for her to come out, and he's like checking on her. She's like, hey, good morning. And he was like, hey. And she's like, what you doing up? And he was like, I gotta watch you. And she's like, Zach, no, you don't. And he was like, are you all right? And she's like, I'm good. And he was like, now, it's the morning time now. Let's, admit you was wrong for going over there. And she said, okay, I'll admit it. I shouldn't have went over there, but I'm not sorry that I did. And he's like, I got you. And so anyway, They agree that she shouldn't went over there. She's like, Zach, I kind of don't want to talk about it. He was like, okay, the only thing is two things. He was like, one, I already told her I was going to give her the money, so I'm just going to take the money over there to help her rebuild the shop. And Fatima looks and she's like, what? And he was like, yeah. And she's like, is that what you want to do? And he's like, yeah. And so she's like, fine. And he's like, you sure? And she's like, you know what, Zach? Yeah, like in all honesty, I don't have no problem with that. I just want her to leave you alone. Let me put a pin here. Tiffany got a problem with it. Honestly, I know Zach is really trying to just be cool with Karen because she helped him. And he really is just trying to kind of, kind of show her too, you know what I mean? Because she didn't really seem to have very much faith in him from his own words. And so he's really just kind of showing her, wanting to show her that, now that he has his money and things like that, he's able to help her. And I honestly think he want to show her how, this is how you loan somebody some money and don't throw it back in their face, in all honesty. So I think he's really just trying to show her, I am, again, the person you never really thought I was going to be, this person, have this money and be in a position to help you. But I am. But with that being said, I still choose not to be with you. Now, that may be Zach's point in case and things like that. And I honestly don't know that that's a good enough reason for him to keep sending her money or anything like that, or trying to reach out to help her the way that he has. But I wouldn't be okay with it if he was my dude. And I don't think that Fatima would have been showing any type of insecurity if she would have said that. I think Zach needs to learn how to put boundaries, and he hadn't learned how, and she just didn't make that requirement of him soon enough. To me, Fatima did not. And so with that being said, she's like, that's fine. And so he goes, okay, I'm going to take her to check and then I'm good. I ain't going to say nothing else to her. And Fatima was like, unless, and he was like, oh, unless like the baby is mine. And she was like, right. And then what we going to do? And he was like, we'll just figure it out when it happens. And then he goes, what's going on with Michael? And she was like, oh, come to the office. Because remember, she gave the attorney the paperwork so that they can try to see if they can get some type of custody arrangement in regards to Michael. So fast forward that Fatima gets to the office and she's talking to Andy. Her and Andy have a little kumbaya moment. Andy was kind of trying to have an attitude with her, which to me, Andy blurs lines for somebody who later on, when we get into current seasons, wants to try to stand on business. This is work and I'm your boss and I'm your friend, but this is boss kind of stuff, because she tends to bring the personal stuff up in the office, not Fatima. In all honesty, she should not have been calling Fatima into her office to talk to her about the argument that they had that Fatima and Karen had at Karen's house the night before. And that's what she did. So they talked about that, and she was just like, I thought she was going home and to break up with Zach and stuff. And Fatima told her, well, I was, in all honesty, but he got home and he explained it to me and I believed him. And so, so I decided to, basically go and check Karen over it. And so she was like, well, I am sorry. I wasn't thinking, and I'm done. She was like, sometimes when I just get to my limit, basically, it just really ain't no off switch on me until I get it out. That's basically what she was telling, Fatima was telling Andy. So if you fast forward a little bit into the episode, Karen is contacting the doctor and she's like, oh, I need the paperwork. If you could give me a hard copy and email it to me. And so she does that. And then while she does that, she supposedly Karen is also like on her way to check on the salon, because she hasn't been there since the day before. When she gets there, once again, she sees Pam and Aaron again showing up. And, so she's just like, you could tell she's like really not really wanting to talk to him or anything like that. And so Zach had already dropped the check off and gave it to Pam. And so when Karen walks up, she's like, here's something for you. It's from Zach. And she was like, what is it? So she opens it. Karen opens the envelope and it's a check. And she was like, I don't need nothing from him. Take it back. And Pam was like, girl, bye. Like, you better quit asking, like, quit tripping and take this check, because you know you don't got no insurance on this place, and we both need to get back to work. And she was like, I don't need nothing from Zach. And so she tears up the check. Aaron's sitting there like happy and gloating and stuff, you know. And so again, now Karen ain't paying him no mind. So she calls. She's like, tell him to come and get it. And Pam's like, I'm not doing that. So she grabs the phone and she calls Zach, and she's blowing Zach up. Now, Zach happens to be at the law office with Fatima, meeting with the to meet with the attorney. They had already met with them and stuff like that. So they're sitting there and they're talking to Andy. So it's Andy and Zach and Fatima in Fatima's office when Karen is calling. Karen is blowing up Zach's phone. And so Fatima is like, you know, who's that calling? Because the phone is buzzing, and he picks it up and he turns it down. And so she's like, answer it, when she sees that it's Karen. And he's like, I'm not answering that. So Fatima picks up the phone and she answers it, and she's like, hello, you know. And so Karen is like, oh, it's you. And Fatima goes, yeah, it's me. And she goes, well, since I got you, let me just tell you, if you come to my house like that again, I'm gonna shoot you. And so you know, and so basically Karen is like threatening Fatima. So Fatima's like, girl, bye. And so she like laughs it off, and she's like, Karen, let me just tell you something. I'll just trust that you better have a fully loaded clip if that's what you're going to do. And she kind of they go back and forth. And she was just like, Karen telling Fatima, you just a stupid, you know, bee and stuff. And she was like, well, come do something about it then, Fatima. And she's like, you know, Fatima, I will pop you one. And, you know, and so Fatima's like, come do it. Like, I'm at the office. And then she was like, you don't think I will? And so Fatima calls her bluff. She's like, Karen, let me just explain something to you. You might want to check with your friends, because you acting like you about that life. But trust me, I am about that life, and you don't want none of this. And so she was like, I'm on my way. And so she cusses her out. And so Zach grabs the phone from Fatima, and he's like, Fatima, give me the phone. And she's like, he's like, Karen. And she was like, I got that check. I tore it up. And he was like, okay. And she was like, I don't need nothing from you. Just leave me alone, and I'll raise this baby by myself. And Zach is like really like just done. He's not engaging or anything. Now he has her on speakerphone. So Andy's hearing all of this. Fatima's hearing everything. And she's like, so I don't need you. You keep your money. I don't want nothing from you. And I'll take care of this baby by myself. And so Zach was just like, okay. And because he's not engaging, that's ticking Karen off even more, because remember, she loves it when they argue, because that's kind of showing that he cares, right? So in her mind, because again, they have this real toxic argumentative relationship. So she's thinking like, so you not engaging. And then when he said, okay, that he wasn't going to help with the baby, that really sent her selling. Now, this is like the second time that she untold him that she don't need nothing from him, even if the baby is his. But she continues to kind of weaponize the child in between various episodes and seasons. So anyway, he goes, all right. And she goes, oh, that's all you got to say? And he was like, well, I mean, like, what else do you want me to say? You know? And so she was like, you know what? F you. And he was like, she was like, acting like I won't come over there and F up that B. And, you know, and so he's just like, Karen, whatever. And so, you know, so she cussing him out, and she's like, F you. And he's like, bye, I gotta go. And he hangs up, and he's looking at Andy like, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is the stuff that you don't see what's going on that we've been putting up with. And so Fatima's like, somebody needs to get the girl and do something, because like she doing too much. And so she starts Karen calls Andy. And Fatima goes, okay, so now she calling you. And so Andy goes, well, let me just take this. And so Fatima's like, no, take it right here so I can hear what she gonna say too. So Andy leaves, and she walks out of Fatima's office. She answers the phone, and she's like, Karen. And so Karen basically is like, did you get the email? And she was like, what are you talking about, Karen? She was like, show him. She was like, show them what? She was like, you know, you always taking her side. Just show her what I'm talking about. And Andy has no idea what she's talking about, because Karen is like so upset that she's starting in the middle of a sentence. I be getting on people that I know about starting conversations in the middle of something, like a thought or a sentence, like take me back to the beginning. I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, Andy did not know Karen had sent the email until she was like, what are you talking about? Like, send the email. So anyway, so she hangs up the phone. She was like, Karen, do not come here. I'll come meet you. And so Karen tells her, no, I don't want you to come me. You ain't my friend. You ain't no friend of mine. And so she basically hangs up. So Fatima is at the door of her office, her and Zach. And she's like, what'd she say? And she was like, well, no. And she goes, I heard her. She said something like, show us what you're supposed to be showing us. And so Andy was like, I don't know. She goes, oh, well, that's okay. I'll go see, because Fatima is her paralegal. So she gets like copies of, she has access to Andy's email. So she goes and she opens up Andy's email, the one that Karen sent her, and sees that there is some test results that shows that Aaron is not the father. And so in her mind, because this is what kind of Karen is saying, is that if Aaron isn't the father, then Zach is. So Zach is like, what's going on? Because Fatima looks, she looks and you could tell it in her face. She looks at Zach like, this, SHIT. She can just tell it. And he's like, what? And she was like, it's your baby. And he just like looks and he's like, what? And she just looks and he's like, baby. Like, he don't know what to do, right? Like, he just sees like the look on Fatima's face, and he's just like, because in all honesty, they was both kind of hoping that this won't be it, that this ain't gonna be their life, right? Hopefully she will be pregnant by Aaron, and then we don't have no attachment. So he's like, dang, baby, and so anyway, fast forward into it a little bit more. Karen shows up at the law site, because she basically told Fatima she was gonna come and pop her, right? And so Andy is supposedly, I guess, kind of sees Karen come in, and so meets her, and she's like, Karen, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, I came up here to do something. She was like, okay, well, what do you want? And she was like, oh, I came up here to talk. And she was like, so what? And so she walks up and she was like, what? What about me? And so she takes out, her piece and pops her, and she shoots, right? But it picks up kind of like in her mind. So here's the thing. This whole thing with Karen, supposedly, for those who haven't seen the episode, is a kind of a fantasy. Karen would love to have popped Fatima. And so this is kind of like if that incident played out, because it ended up being like a daydream. So she shows up, she pops Fatima in this fantasy of hers. Fatima's on the ground bleeding and stuff like that. But Zach is still, even in her fantasy, running over to Fatima and like, no, just like distraught. And so then Andy kind of wakes her up like, Karen. And she's like, oh, what? And she was like, what are you doing here? And now they're back in reality. And Fatima is like, and what about me? And so she's like, so she was like, no, Zach comes up and he's like, hey, y'all ladies, we not about to do this here. And Fatima's like, what? I just want to talk. And he's like, nah. And she was like, so then Karen is like, did you see the papers? And she's looking at Zach and Fatima, and they both look at her and they were like, yeah, we did. And they say it in unison, they head cocked the same way and everything. When I tell you, like, it was like a couple thing. Honestly, they literally said the same stuff at the same time. They head cocked to the same side and everything. And so, and so she was like, yeah. And he was like, all right, basically. So she was just like, yeah. And so Fatima was like, you know what, Karen? She was like, and Zach was like, can we not? And Fatima's like, you know what? No. She about to know, and Zach is just like, we still never knew what that meant. At the time, a lot of us in the fan base believed that Fatima was supposed to have been pregnant then, but I don't know, that they was kind of playing, and she, with this whole time frame thing. So let's not get into that. But anyway, basically Fatima was like, okay, you know what, Karen, I was wrong for coming to your house. I'm apologize for that. And she goes, but you was just as wrong for inviting Zach over to have sex with you. And so Karen was like, yeah, I know. She was like, I forgot this. He ain't never been nothing to me. No way. And so Fatima was like, yeah, well, with that, you're wrong. And she was like, yeah, whatever. And she was like, you would know. And she was like, yeah, I would. And so then Karen is like, wait a minute. She was like, oh, y'all being all nice because y'all don't want me to come for his money. And they basically were like, what? And she was like, yeah. She was like, no, this baby, his child, gonna have everything he want. Meaning, like, again, she's now fully admitting that she about to come at him full throttle for his money on behalf of this baby. And that's what people are saying about Karen weaponizing this pregnancy and this baby against Zach. She's been doing it really from the beginning, but this is really when she first, like, the first time she verbalized it. And so anyway, fast forward a little bit more into it, she leaves. Zach goes home, and he's running into Fatima. He's just like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, but I don't want to talk about it. So then they start talking about some stuff with Michael. And they end up going to Michael's house to check on him. While they're there, they find out that the mom is leaving him with like an abusive boyfriend and everything like that. And so he was hitting the baby, and Zach overheard it. So he busted and beat the snot out this dude, and they took Michael. Fatima and Zach. While they took him, of course, he's in diapers and all that kind of stuff. And so they ended up going to the store to pick up some necessities that they needed, because they need to get diapers, wipes, all that kind of stuff, and clothes so that they can give him a bath and everything like that. When they're at the store, they literally run into Karen, who had just went to the store to pick up something for her. And so they get into it, at the store. So basically they're at the store, and Karen is like, Zach and Fatima walk up, they see Karen turn the corner, and they're like, oh my goodness. And Zach is like, man. And so so Fatima is like, babe, let's go. And he's like, yeah, let's go. And so Karen was like, well, who's this? And Zach goes like, Karen, like, and she goes, no, who is it? And so Fatima is like, Zach, babe, let's go. And so she goes, who is it? And so she goes, wait a minute. Is this the baby that the woman who said this was that she had your child? Is this him? And so Zach was just like, Karen, what are you doing? And so let me put a pin here. The thing is with me with Zach is that he continues to engage with Karen sometimes. Like, she not with you, so you don't have to answer all her questions. You know what I'm saying? But I understand it was to kind of help push the storyline along, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But he tends to, whenever she asks him a question, feels like he has to answer. She's not your woman no more. And so you don't have to answer to her. So as long as Fatima knew who she was, you good. So anyway, moving on to the conversation, she starts questioning Zach and everything. And so she's like, is you going to take care of him? He's like, why you even care? And she was like, well, did you get a DNA test? He was like, Karen, yes, I did. But why you care? And she was like, because I want to know where our child fit in. You see how like selfish she is? Like, you literally just told me you don't even want him to help you no more. And then you was like, now you about to take him for everything. And now you all like, I want to know how our child fits into, this situation and stuff. Like, she just all over the place. So anyway, she like tries to walk up on the baby and look at him. And so Fatima stops her, and she's like, don't do that. He's asleep. And she was like, oh, my bad. He's sleeping. So she was like telling Zach, Karen, oh, so you just like father of the year all of a sudden. And so Fatima jumps in, and she's like, Karen, like, what is your problem? And so Karen goes, you my problem. And Fatima goes, yeah, I know that. And she goes, well, I'm glad you know. And so Fatima busts her out. And she was like, yeah, I am usually a problem for insecure women. And so Karen was like, insecure. And so Fatima was like, yeah, that's what I said. And so Zach is like, he's like, yo, he's like, baby, I got this. Why don't you just go wait in the car? And Fatima looks at him, and she's like, no, I ain't going nowhere. Like, I'll wait. And so, he goes, baby. And so Karen goes, baby. And so Fatima goes, yes, a baby. And Zach does it in once and for all. Karen, yes, baby. She's my baby. She's my life. She's my love. She's my everything. I already told you this 1,000 times. And so like Karen just like, I mean, if you needed him to say it in front of you, in front of her again, because this is now the second time that he's told Karen where he stands, in front of Fatima. So like, let there be no mistake that I'm not over here telling her one thing and you the other. So he busts her out. And so she was like, well, he was like, So I don't really know what else to tell you. And she basically Karen tells Zach, well, you just got to figure it out because we got a baby on the way. And he was like, you know what? I'm not about to do this. So they leave. They walk off, and she's literally following them with the basket. They go and get into a line to pay for everything. And then Michael starts waking up. So he goes, I'm going to go put him in the car, babe. And so Fatima stays to pay for everything. And so Karen, y'all not going to put him in a car seat or anything. And so Fatima turns around and tells her, you know what, Karen, you gonna be a good mom. She out of all of this that went down, she still tell her, you gonna be a good mom. You not gonna leave your baby at home with somebody who beat him sitting in his own, waste. And she goes, and so Karen is looking like, what? And she's like, yeah, we went to check on him, and that's how we found him. And so we took him. So if you want us to take him back just so that we can have a car seat to appease you, then we can do that. Or we can just go ahead and continue on with our night so I can get him home, feed him, give him a bath, and show him the love that he obviously has never had. And so she was like, so once again, you don't have anything to worry about. Your child, if it's Zach's, she didn't say if, but just kind of keeping up the flow of conversation of her in her mind, of Fatima's statements has always been, if you can prove that this baby is Zach's, then you can trust that neither one of us are going to hurt your child. Your child will be taken care of. I will not do anything harmful to your child. That child will be loved. Fatima has told her over and over again, she's told her friends that she's going to love the child because it's Zach's and she loves Zach. So anyway, Fatima walks off and goes to finish paying for her food, paying for the groceries and stuff, the diapers and all that kind of stuff, and leaves Karen there. So I will leave it there for this particular video. Let me know what you think about it, if you saw the episodes, and what you thought about the whole office confrontation, the phone call between Fatima and Karen, Karen wilding out the way she did. And then even the interaction with that in the grocery store, I thought that was the best thing that Zach could have did. I mean, if she needed to hear it again, he definitely gave her the room too. So anyway, let me know what you thought. Let's get into a conversation, and feel free to share, and subscribe. But again, I'll be back on next video. Thank you for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye.